All right, so this unit is Unit D, Human Body Systems. It's our last unit, and it is worth the most from all 4 units. So the first chapter, it is chapter 6, which is digestion and human health. 6.1 is the molecules of living systems. All right, so just a quick introduction. There's a great degree of specialization in the body's organs, but they are still working together. So the organ systems we're going to be looking at, or the human body systems, are digestive, circulatory, immune, excretory, respiratory, and motor. So each system we'll be looking at separately and independently, but remember that none of these systems can exist in isolation. Their interdependence is necessary for the body's survival. All right, and we're going to take a look at the first topic is homeostasis. This slide, the first 2 slides here are just showing the different organ systems of the human body. So we have the digestive system, which breaks down food. It's going to eliminate the undigested food. Respiratory system, which deals with gas exchange. Circulatory system, which deals with transporting blood, nutrients, gases, and metabolic wastes. It also defends the body against disease. Controls temperature, fluid balance, and pH balance. Lymphatic and immune system. This will defend against disease. It also absorbs fats and controls fluid balance. Excretory system has to do with the kidneys, removing metabolic wastes, controlling fluid balance and pH balance. Muscular system has to do with muscles. Integumentary system is like the skin, so protects the body, also receives sensory info, controls body temperature, and so on. Also synthesizes vitamin D. Skeletal system provides a framework, the muscles attached to the bones. It also produces blood cells, stores minerals, protects the soft organs. Nervous system has to do with the brain, the spinal cord. Endocrine system has to do with hormones, and reproductive system has to do with reproducing as well as the gametes. So the ones we will be doing in Bio 20 is the digestive system, respiratory system, circulatory system, lymphatic and immune, excretory, and the muscular system. All right, so the first topic we are going to look at is homeostasis. It is the way the human body maintains balance. So the body systems maintain homeostasis through a mechanism that has 3 components. There's a sensor, which detects a change in the internal environment. Then there is an effector, which brings internal conditions back into a normal range. And then there's a control center, which activates the effector based on information received from the sensor. And it's all to maintain homeostasis or balance within the body. Okay, so the human body can withstand an enormous range of internal and external conditions while maintaining a consistent internal environment. And that stable internal environment is called homeostasis. All right, so again, when a system gets out of balance, it's detected by the sensor. It will trigger an effector to change the internal conditions so that they're brought back into the normal range. And then there's that control center. So this system is known as the negative feedback loop. All right, there is this video here attached on homeostasis and the feedback loops. I'm just going to go through this example here. So let's say the control center, the set point for our body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. And let's say there is a stimulus, and the stimulus could be that it's cold. Maybe it's cold outside, so the response or the effector, blood vessels will constrict, sweat glands become inactive, and then the body will return back to normal. And so here we can see normal body temperatures is what we're trying to achieve. After that, we get into the chemicals of life. These are the biomolecules. So for example, carbohydrates, which are the primary energy source of cells. They're also the structural material of plant cell walls. There are proteins. They're the structural component of cells. They're composed of amino acids. There are lipids, which are the fats. They are the energy storage compound, the structural component of cell membranes. And then lastly, there's also nucleic acids. These are what make up, for example, DNA, which is the genetic material that directs the cell activity. They are made up of sugar, phosphates, and nitrogen bases. And then there's vitamins and minerals. These help in chemical reactions, and they're usually found in complex chemicals. So we're going to start by looking at carbohydrates first. So carbohydrates, lipids, which are the fats, proteins, and nucleic acids, all fall under macromolecules. It implies macromolecule by definition means a large molecule. So when we're talking about it in biology, we're talking about the carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. These are the building blocks of all the structures within our bodies, and these macromolecules are used to store energy, build structures, and store genetic material. Carbohydrates can be turned into fats and stored in bodies, and muscles and organs have large amounts of proteins in their structure. Lipids make up membranes because of their insoluble nature, and then nucleic acids, these are the building blocks of our DNA. All right, here again is just a quick summary of the macromolecules. So again, carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. And we're going to start by talking about carbohydrates first. So carbohydrates are sugars that get broken down into sugars. So monosaccharides are commonly referred to as the simple sugars, and they are the monomer for disaccharides. Di meaning two, mono meaning one, and then poly meaning many. So polysaccharides make up the starch. All right, so 5 important simple sugars. Here we can see glucose, fructose, galactose, and then down here we have deoxyribose and ribose. The monosaccharides and disaccharides taste sweet and are found in fruits and in refined sugar products. All right, so again, mono meaning one, so it's a single sugar unit. Disaccharide is a sugar formed by joining 2 monosaccharide subunits together. A polysaccharide is a carbohydrate composed of many single sugar subunits. All right, so what we are seeing happening here is we have the synthesis of maltose, which is happening by a chemical bond forming between 2 glucose molecules. So notice again, glucose and glucose, they are 2 monosaccharides being joined together. So during this process, the hydrolysis of maltose, the components of 1 water molecule are added and the bond is broken, yielding 2 glucose molecules. And we can see this double arrow here, basically showing that this chemical reaction can happen in both directions. So you can have glucose and glucose joining together to form maltose, which is a disaccharide, and you can have that process reverse as well. All right, dehydration synthesis is the dehydration synthesis is when you're taking the 2 molecules and forming them into a larger molecule. So here, glucose plus glucose forming maltose. That would be a dehydration synthesis, and it's happening by the removal of water from two smaller molecules. And then hydrolysis reaction is happening in the reverse direction. It's when the larger molecule gets split into the two smaller molecules by the addition of water. So here in blue we can see OH and H here. That's the removal of water. Here again, we're seeing the formation of a disaccharide. This time we have glucose, which is a monosaccharide, plus fructose, which is also a monosaccharide. And there's a removal of water to form a disaccharide called sucrose. All right, so common carbohydrates here. We can look at the structural differences among some carbohydrates here. So we have starch, looks like this, glycogen, and we have cellulose. So starch, it's a plant carbohydrate used to store energy. Glycogen, it's a form of carbohydrate that is stored in animals. And cellulose is a plant polysaccharide that makes up plant cell walls. All right, so again, here we're looking at the structure of a starch. We have glycogen, and then we have cellulose, which is also known as fiber. So three polysaccharides that are important in human nutrition are starch, glycogen, and cellulose. All three of them are composed of many glucose monomers, but have slightly different structures, as we can see here. Starch, again, is the energy storage molecule for plants. It's an important source of energy in the human diet. Cellulose is the hard substance in plants that provides structure, and it provides us with fiber. It's important in the human diet, this cellulose or fiber, because it provides bulk, and it basically gives that feeling of fullness and allows for digestion to occur and elimination of wastes. And then glycogen, which was here, it's the energy storage molecule in the human body. It's found in the liver, and it can be found in smaller amounts in our muscle tissue. All right, we'll talk a little bit about lipids next. Lipids are the fats, and they're composed of a glycerol backbone. So this here is the glycerol backbone, and three fatty acid molecules. So 1, 2, and 3. So lipids are an important energy storage molecule in the body, as well as important in the structure and function of cell membranes and hormones, because they don't dissolve in water. All right, so here again we're seeing the structure of lipids. It's called a triglyceride. It's a lipid composed of glycerol and 3 fatty acids. So again, we have the backbone, the glycerol, plus the 3 fatty acids. And during the process of dehydration synthesis, we form the triglyceride. All right, so during the synthesis of a fat molecule, 3 fatty acid molecules bond with 1 glycerol molecule, and then 3 water molecules are produced. And then during hydrolysis, we'll have the addition of water, and the reaction will go in the opposite direction. All right, so lipids, which are fats, there's 2 categories. There are saturated versus unsaturated. So again, a lipid is composed of glycerol and saturated fatty acids. and are solid at room temperature. So when we're talking about lipids and we're talking about fats, these are the ones that are solid at room temperature. So most of the fatty acids in animal fats are saturated. And we can see here the saturated structure of a saturated fatty acid, and we can see all the single covalent bonds. Single covalent bonds are stable, so therefore animal fats, which are saturated fatty acids, are difficult to break down. The other type of lipid is an oil. This is a lipid composed of glycerol and unsaturated fatty acids, and it is normally found as a liquid at room temperature. All right, and the fatty acids of most plants are unsaturated. So here in the unsaturated fatty acids, we can see some double bonds here, here, and here. Double bonds are reactive, so plant oils are more easily broken down than animal fats. So again, saturated fats do not have double bonds between the carbon atoms. Unsaturated fats do. They have these double bonds, makes them more reactive and makes them more easily to break down. This is a structure of a phospholipid. Phospholipids, these are, it's a lipid with a phosphate molecule attached to the glycerol backbone. It makes this molecule polar, and it's the major component of cell membranes. So the polar end of phospholipids is soluble in water, and the non-polar end is insoluble. All right, so this head here is polar, and then the tails are non-polar. And this structure here is what makes up cell membranes. And then waxes make up a third group of lipids. And in waxes, we have long chain fatty acids are joined to long chain alcohols or to carbon rings. And these long stable molecules, they're insoluble in water. And so they're important in, for example, waterproof coating for plant leaves and animal feathers and fur.